Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the first day of school officially. Just wanted to take a moment and remind you, I know I posted last night a short video, just sort of answering a handful of questions. I would ask that you do take a look at that. Um, Starting today, we're gonna continue on learning as best as we can and uh, cover new material. And my goal with this little video here is to kind of cover just important information from the chapter 17. Before you ask what happened to chapter 16, I just felt that given the circumstances, we are in the middle of chapter 16 when the world came to an end as we know it, and really didn't feel as if I could effectively and fairly continue the material and give you a test. So we're just going to start fresh with chapter 17. I know many of the assignments, the enrichment activities that I put on Google Classroom, and asking you guys to complete those. Many of those have to do with chapter 17. The big topic of this is what is the American economy? What is capitalism and how does it compare to socialism? So I'm going to break up the chapter into two parts. I'm going to cover, really, in this video, just these two slides, section 1 of chapter 17. The major topic is going to be like, what is the gross domestic product, or GDP? So I'm going to go into present mode here. When this video is done, I'm going to have a short sort of section assessment, just a little mini quiz to complete and answer questions. I would expect that you would use anything I say here, use these notes, use online sources, cheat as much as you want, Google stuff up, just answer the questions. That's all I care about. So, anyway, chapter 17, the American economy. Looking at the idea of the gross domestic product, or GDP, as it oftentimes is typically called because it's easier to say. The easiest way to explain and describe what GDP is how much money a country is worth. That number fluctuates; it changes all the time. Obviously, good things happen. We see growth. Bad things like a global pandemic occurs and millions of Americans lose their jobs. Bad things happen that can hurt the economy. Economists have a lot of different numbers that they could use. The GDP tends to be sort of a favorite number. This is an easy way for us to highlight this, to help us measure the standard of living, or the overall quality of life. How good is life in a country? A similar statistic is the GDP per capita, which is a really simple statistic. You just take the gross domestic product, the overall amount of money a country is worth, divided by the number of people in a country, and you come up with the average wealth of each person in a country. Because when I show you, the GDP is a gigantic number. I've got really three websites here. This one here comes from the World Bank. This shows the overall GDP of pretty much any country I want. Like right now, in current US dollars in the world, as of 2018, there was almost $86 trillion. That's a lot of money. Now, just in the United States, I'm going to click on the United States here. Just showing, okay, here's the United States. We have $20.54 trillion. So that's a lot of money. And you can kind of look here at this chart, going back to 1960. We have gradually, pretty much constantly moved up. There's this little blip here, and it's a little blip. It's not big. In 2008, we were worth 14.7 trillion. 2009, we were worth 14.4 trillion. We went through what was known as a little mini recession. Economists and historians like to call it the Great Recession. Clearly, we don't know what's going to happen with our world right now, but last week, 6.6 million Americans lost their jobs. We don't know how many millions of Americans are going to be negatively impacted by this social distancing and being stuck at home. I don't know how big it's going to be, but this GDP in 2020 is going to drop. It's just common sense. When millions of Americans lose their jobs and they lose the ability to buy stuff, businesses are going to shut down, bad things are going to occur. This number will go down. How big will it be? I don't know. Will it be this big? Maybe. Something we can recover from. Will it be Great Depression like, where it's going to come down here? Who knows? Not me. I don't. As far as GDP per capita, because $20 trillion, that's a gigantic number. How does somebody kind of compare that? Well, you can compare it to other countries. So if I want to, I can compare it to China. China is $13 trillion. That's a lot, but China has 1 billion people. We have 300 million. So we have more money with less people. You look at Japan, they're just under 5 trillion. Scroll down to some of the poorer countries. Mexico, they're at $1.2 trillion. Keep scrolling down to some of the really poor countries. Oftentimes they're African countries. We got Somalia at $4 billion. They don't even have $4 trillion. I go down to one of the absolute poorest countries, the poorest country in the world is, I went too far, a little island called Tuvalu, which has, if I read this correctly, $42 million total in their entire country. Now, how do I determine like what is $42 million for a country, or what's $20 trillion in comparison? I'm going to click on here. Where is it at? I want GDP per capita. I don't think this is going to be the right one. Yeah, it's per capita growth. I don't want that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here's the GDP per capita of the United States. According to this, if I can get this to load properly, close that. My computer is not operating. Oh, there we go. In 2018, the average American was worth $59,507. That would be the equivalent of like every last person in your household having a bank account with that much money, or with possessions equaling that much. Now, clearly, there are rich people, there are poor people. That's just an average to give us an idea as to like how wealthy is a country as a whole. Again, comparing us to other countries, we have Iran, which we typically think of Iran. In 2017, they had $88,948. The average person is richer in Iran. If we look at Vietnam, they have $36,000. Colombia, down in South America, $17,000. Iraq, $5,000. And again, go to some of the really, really, really poor ones. We got Haiti in the Caribbean Sea. That's worth $1,463. Sudan, $777. Liberia in Africa is worth $298. Like the average person in Liberia, everything they own, everything they have, would be $298 for a given year. Try living on $298 for an entire year. So those statistics, while not perfect, do give you an idea. I do like this map, and I'm nearly done with this little video here. I do like this map here. This shows you and illustrates where the world's money is. The darker a country is, that represents how much of the percentage of the world's money they have. Like looking at this, the darkest countries, the ones with the most money, you got the United States here, China over here, you got India, Russia, some of England. There's England and France and Germany, some of the European countries. Brazil has a huge economy down here. Canada and Mexico are pretty dark. And then some of the Indonesian area, the South Pacific, and Japan there. But then you look at the entire continent of Africa, and they are just poverty stricken. Huge chunks of Asia, huge chunks of Europe are just barren. They're poor when compared to the United States and China and Russia and Brazil and Mexico and so forth. So, looking at the notes again, I think I covered the bulk of what I wanted to go over. The problem with this video software is it makes my computer lag a little bit. So bear with my computer. All right, I'm going to hit pause and then I'm going to continue on once it's loaded.